House will come to order. Today's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Layla House from Bromley East Charter School, Addison Trahan, Kason Trahan, Anna Trahan, and they're in homeschool in Brighton, Colorado, and their guests, Representative Covarrubias.
Please join us for singing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Representatives Arndt.
Looks like most of the Dems aren't here.
Excused.
Baker J. Baker K.
Excused.
Baker K is here. Representative Beckman. Benavides. Bridges. Buck. Buck. Buckner. Carver. Catlin. Coleman. Covarrubias. Danielson. Escar. Everett. Everett.
Excused.
Exum. Foot. Garnett. Representative Arndt is present. Janal. Gray. Hamner. Hanson. Herod. Putin. Humphrey. Jackson. Kennedy. Kraft-Tharp. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lee. Lee.
Excused.
Leonard. Lewis. Liston. Lontine. Lundeen. Representative Lee is present. McKean. McLaughlin. Melton. Michelson Janae. Excused. Neville. Pabon. Pabon.
Excused.
Pedersen. Rankin. Ransom. Ryer. Roberts. Rosenthal. Sane. Salazar. Sandridge. Sias. Singer. Singer. Thurlow. Thurlow.
Thurlow, excused.
Valdez. Van Winkle. Weissman. Willett. Williams. Wilson. Winkler. Winter. Winter.
Excused.
Wist. Wist.
I'm waiting for him to.
Representative Thurlow is present.
Excused.
Young. Madam Speaker.
Here.
Lee walked in, right?
Representative Winter is present.
So I've got Everett, Michelson, Janae, Ramon, and West.
With 61 present and 4 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Exum, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Hope you had a great weekend.
I did.
Good. Madam Speaker, I move that the reading of the Journal of Thursday, March 29th, 2018 be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
All right, members, you have heard the motion. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. That motion passes by few members who are listening. Thank you, Representative Exum. Announcements and introductions. I do have one announcement. Representative Melton will replace Representative Michelson Janae on the Finance Committee today only. Good morning, Representative Arndt.
Morning, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Hey, you guys. Tomorrow night at 5 o'clock near my office out here by the Supreme Court, we're having the great big clothing swap for professional dress and accessories for women. So if you haven't cleaned out your closets, please do. We're going to have snacks and it's going to be a good time. We're all going to swap around and look like each other and share our professional dress and make use of what we have, and all the leftovers of what we don't want are going to go to women transitioning out of prison or domestic violence shelters. So y'all come, it'll be a good time. Thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we have several special guests here with us today, representing a variety of organizations, including the International Rescue Committee in Denver, Veterans for American Ideals, the DRIVE Project, and the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado, and they are here today. And so stand up, and everyone, let's please welcome some of these amazing veterans.
Welcome to the Capitol. Thank you so much for joining us today. Further announcements or introductions? Members, we have a tribute this morning. Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask that the Conflict Resolution Month tribute be read at length.
The House of Representatives convened in the 71st General Assembly hereby extends sincere commendations to the volunteers for Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado. Conflict resolution encompasses mediation, arbitration, restorative justice, facilitation, collaborative decision-making, and other responses to differences. These conflict resolution processes empower individuals to foster communication and devise solutions acceptable to the needs and interests of all parties involved. For 14 years, the Volunteers for Conflict Resolution Month in Colorado have worked tirelessly toward the mission of inspiring and encouraging Coloradans to solve problems constructively, especially through using dialogue to promote peaceful and creative resolutions to disputes. The members of the Colorado House of Representatives joined the Governor and the Colorado State Senate in recognizing October as Conflict Resolution Month, encouraging the citizens of the state to reflect on the conflicts present in their lives and to work responsibly to peacefully resolve those conflicts. We also call upon leaders across our state to use this month as an occasion to discuss the principles of conflict resolution in their schools, neighborhoods, congregations, and workplaces. On request of Representative Pete Lee, given the second day of April 2018, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's appropriate that we bring this tribute today after our marathon session last Wednesday, during which we adopted a balanced budget for the people of the state of Colorado. We did so with civility, with compromise, modeled and led by our esteemed JBC members. It is fitting that we, the legislators representing the people, promote and encourage conflict resolution. Conflict is endemic in what we do. We meet for hours every day on the floor and in committees. We confront each other at the core of our beliefs about issues of policy and sometimes even of politics as we attempt to craft the best bills and law for the people of the state of Colorado. Politics, it is said, is the art of compromise, moving from conflict to conversation to respectful resolution. We pass over 400 bills a year in this chamber for the governor to sign, all on a bipartisan basis, most by votes with overwhelming majorities. We unanimously agree on scores of issues and resolutions. We strive to disagree respectfully without being disrespectful. So we do so, I suggest, because most of the time we know how to engage in conflict resolution. We do it daily for the citizens of Colorado. Today, by virtue of this tribute, we join Governor Hickenlooper recognizing October as Conflict Resolution Month, and we commend it to the people of the state of Colorado. Conflict resolution is based on mutual respect for both the other side and for their position. It is based on a common goal to find common ground for the common good. It is based on civility and the willingness to compromise. The alternatives to conflict resolution are chaos and despair, and nationally, things such as Charlottesville. Internationally, when conflict resolution does not work, we have Syria, we have Yemen, we have Israel and Palestine, Ukraine, and scores of others, where compromise is a lost art and civility is an unknown virtue. So by this tribute, we recognize the people whose lives are committed to conflict resolution, the judges, the magistrates, the arbitrators, the mediators, the counselors, the restorative justice facilitators, who help others to find common ground, to promote understanding, and to preserve relationships, to renew hope, and to improve people's lives, whether in courtrooms, classrooms, boardrooms, committee rooms, or playrooms. I salute the peacemakers. May they always prevail. I sent to all of you this summer this Harvard Group book on conflict resolution. I commend it to you. It provides ways and means to promote conflict resolution, and I urge it to you. I would also like to introduce some of the leaders of the conflict resolution process in Colorado: Mary Zinn, Mike Madej, and Andrew. If we could give them a welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and on behalf of the General Assembly, thank you for the work that you do. Further announcements or introductions?
Go to third reading, and then we're going to do the one resolution that Neville and I have, and then go to second reading.
Representative Ransom, announcements and introductions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I need to request permission from the body to be absent tomorrow morning from 9 to 11. I have the appropriate forms all signed out.
Okay, you are excused. All right, that takes, further announcements and introductions. Representative McCain.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a really quick add-on to Representative Lee. I'm listening to his long list of people who deal with conflict resolution. Thank you to all the parents out there. That's the most simple, that's the most basic place that we really start with conflict resolution, is parents and kids that they both love, that both have ideas that are in conflict with each other, and sometimes we just have to sort of work it out. So thank you guys for everything you do. Thank you to all you parents out there.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And speaking of conflict resolution, we can't do it without the big boy upstairs, so we'll be meeting tomorrow morning downstairs, room 109.
Further announcements or introductions? Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be absent Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and have permission of the Majority Leader.
Okay, you are excused. Further announcements or introductions? Going once, going twice. Seeing no further announcements or introductions, that takes us to third reading of bills. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 176.
Senate Bill 176 by Senator Quorum, also Representatives McLaughlin and Catlin, concerning changes to the requirements for meeting dates for the Board of the Southwestern Water Conservation District.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 176 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 176 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative McLaughlin. Please close the machine. With 64 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 176 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 182.
Senate Bill 182 by Senators Quorum and Guzman, Representatives Catlin and Arndt, concerning the authority allocated portion of the source market fee to statutorily authorized purse funds.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 182 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 182 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Lewis, please close the machine. With 64 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 182 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 87.
Senate Bill 87 by Senator Fenberg, also Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Winter, concerning in-state tuition at high institutions of higher education for certain foreign nationals legally settled in Colorado.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 87 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 87 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 37 yes votes, 27 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 87 is passed. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1282. 1252.
House Bill 1252 by Representatives Robertson, Wilson, Austin, and Priolo, concerning unlawful sale of academic materials for submission to an institution of higher education.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1252 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is passage of House Bill 1252 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 36 yes votes, 28 no votes, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1252 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 151.
Senate Bill 151 by Senators Fields and Priolo, also Representatives Buckner and Wilson, concerning the Department of Education research to develop bullying prevention policies.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 151 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 151 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 40 yes votes, 24 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 151 is passed. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 162.
Senate Bill 162 by Senators Martinez and Manica, House of Representatives Buckner and Wilson concerning substitute child care providers.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 162 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 162 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 39 yes votes, 25 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 162 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1278.
House Bill 1278, President Benavides, San Marino, constraining requirement that contracts for public projects over $500,000 that are funded using federal money as principal for the project that are performed by workers in a principal occupation.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1278 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is a passage of House Bill 1278 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Humphrey, please close the machine. With 35 yes votes, 29 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1278 is passed. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 79.
Senate Bill 79 by Senator Guzman, House of Representatives Pavone, concerning classifying sake as a vinous liquor for the purpose of the Colorado Liquor Code.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 79 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 79 on third reading and final passage. Members, it's getting loud in here, and we're still on third reading. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Benavides and Representative Hutin. Please close the machine. With 64 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 79 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. All right. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 8.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of SJR 8. Madam Majority Leader Becker. Actually, Mr. Randall, please read SJR 8, the title.
Senate Joint Resolution 8 by Senators Holbert and Guzman, House of Representatives Becker, King, and Neville concerning a change to Rule 24A of the Joint Rules of the Senate and House of Representatives to permit electronic participation in committee meetings during the legislative interim.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move SJR 008.
Properly moved.
All right, thank you, members. If you remember last year, we passed several bills that actually authorized members to participate in interim committees electronically. They can't vote in interim committees according to the bill, but they can participate electronically. So for the members that live far away from the Capitol, they can actually just participate electronically if they abide by certain rules. What this resolution does is basically codifies that statute that was passed into our rules to conform the two.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to clarify, it doesn't allow electronic voting for interim committees by members, and if you're participating at a distance, that does not count as a quorum. So that's what the bill said, and now that's what our rule will say. So we ask for your aye vote.
All right, the question before us is a passage of SJR 8. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. SJR 8 is adopted. And then do you want co-sponsors? Madam Majority Leader Becker?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the morning roll call will be added as co-sponsors. All right, that takes us back to second reading. Representative Salazar. All right, members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Salazar will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader, and the court rule is relaxed. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 151. It's Senate Bill 106.
Senate Bill 106 by Senator Tate, House Representative Thurlow, concerning obsolete statutory provisions related to local governments pledging its sales for use for tax revenues to pay for revenue bonds issued for the purpose of financing capital improvements.
Representative Thurlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members. I move Senate Bill 106. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 106 is a statutory revision committee bill. It just deals with Section 29.2111 of the revised statutes. There's some obsolete language left in the statutes concerning a fund that the cities and counties have to create when they're going to increase sales tax. All of that was overridden by the Tabor Amendment, so it's obsolete language. We actually had one of the most preeminent municipal bond attorneys in Colorado, in the nation, maybe in the whole world, testify that this was a problem and we should just get rid of it. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 106? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 106. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 106 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title for Senate Bill 110.
Senate Bill 110 by Senator Tate, House Representative Arndt, concerning the repeal of the requirement that each state agency annually report the amount of federal money received in the prior fiscal year.
Representative Arndt.
I move Senate Bill 110.
To the bill.
And there is no committee report. Let's see. Oh, this is an SRC bill that has to do with repealing the provision that we make a report on something that we took away the report requirement for last year. And I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Arndt. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 110? Seeing Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this, I voted no in committee on this simply because I want to know what these federal funds are doing, where they're going, and this bill simply repeals that. So I voted no.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 110? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 110. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 110 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 127.
Senate Bill 127 by Senator Martinez Zerman, House Representative Thurlow, concerning the repeal of the Department of Revenue's requirement to publish a historical explanation of income tax rate modifications enacted in the state on every income tax return form.
And for the encore, Representative Thurlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 127. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Thurlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 127 is another statutory revision committee bill. Around 1999 and 2000, there were some changes in the Colorado income tax rate. It went from 5% in steps down to 4.3%. And during that period, the legislature ordered the Department of Revenue to print the changes on the Colorado income tax form. We're 18 years later, so that information is no longer necessary on the income tax form, so Senate Bill 18127 merely repeals that language. Good bill. I urge an aye vote.
And also for an encore, Representative Arndt, or no? No? Okay. The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 127. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 127 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 129.
Senate Bill 129 by Senator Moreno, also Representative Arndt, concerning the non-substantive reorganization of the law exempting from state sales tax certain drugs and medical therapeutic devices.
And also for an encore, Representative Arndt.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I move Senate Bill 129.
To the bill.
To the bill. This bill consolidates duplicative definitions and cleans up statutory language concerning state sales tax exemptions on prescription drugs and medical devices. It updates and reorganizes these definitions. And that's what we're doing here in this bill. I urge an aye vote.
Fabulous. Representative Sandridge.
Get in there.
Something that bad, I'll be okay.
Get in.
I stand in just modest opposition. The focus of the bill, I think, is great, but there are some concerns with certain loopholes that could take place, especially with scooters and motorized vehicles. I just did a little research and just read a few articles about how some people abuse certain bills like this. So the focus of the bill is great. I'm not standing up here saying it's just terrible. I see a lot of people are listening to me too. But just be cautious whenever we vote for bills like this, and make sure that all the funds and the tax rates do focus directly on the people we're trying to help. Thank you.
Representative Arndt.
And thank you, Representative Sandrich, and I agree with you, and I appreciate your attention to detail and those comments, because it does take all of us to make sure that we're doing the right thing, even when it looks like, we're just simply cleaning up the statutes, but we don't want to make a mistake where we have to come back next year and clean up that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 129? Representative Thurlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Sandrich, for raising the question. If you look at the statute, there's a place where the same definition is repeated about 5 times in 2 pages. All the bill does is leaves the one definition the same and takes out the repetitive part of it. So I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 129. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? Wow, that's pretty robust. Senate Bill 129 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1264.
House Bill 1264, Representatives Jackson and Carver, House Senators Cook and Fields, concerning measures to clarify the scope of revenge porn criminal offenses.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1264 on second reading.
Add to the bill, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill updates the revenge porn statutes. If you don't know, revenge porn is the distribution of private sexual images of a victim, often by a former romantic partner, but in some cases by hackers and others who access and share images without consent.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The initial revenge porn statute was put in Colorado law in 2014. But since that time, the DAs and others have noticed that there are some loopholes in the law that are being exploited to get around prosecution, and this bill is simply to close those loopholes. We ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1264? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1264. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 1264 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 26. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1305.
Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, we'll move to House Bill, what is it? 1305. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1305.
House Bill 1305, Representatives Coleman and Neville, all Senator Neville, concerning a voluntary contribution designation benefiting the Young American Center for Financial Education Fund that appears on the state individual tax return forms.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1305, and there is no committee report.
To the bill, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I know this is a very rare sighting. You might want to pay attention, but a very rare sighting to have the Minority Leader here on second readings. So I asked the Assistant Minority Leader for some assistance here to kind of walk me through this, and he said I should say cleanup, extensive stakeholder process, straightforward, common sense, bipartisan, and this has broad support. But honestly, members, this is a good bill. It got out of committee unanimously, and this will help create a tax checkoff for the Ameritown and the different programs that support that for our youth kids to be able to learn about how to thrive in a free market system. I urge a yes vote.
That was quite unusual, Mr. Minority Leader. Thank you very much. I saw the Loch Ness Monster outside as well. Representative Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as it was said, this bill proposes the creation of the Young American Center for Financial Education Fund. Make sure there's a space available on the form, and also that the fund is next in the queue for a tax checkoff for our young people to be able to be more financially literate, and we ask for your support.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the sponsors for bringing this bill forward. I want to note that we had a very robust conversation in the Finance Committee where Minority Leader Neville actually shed a tear in support of this bill, which is really, really, I think, a very important thing to note. And so I will be standing in strong support. Thank you.
And for tears of joy, is there any further discussion? Representative Liston?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask Representative Coleman, so what kind of financial education, I mean, can you give me an example? I'm just curious.
Representative Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Liston. So as a young person growing up here in Denver, I got a chance to go through this program, and they teach you about what it is to have a bank account, what it is to have credit, what it is to spend money, what it is to have a business. And so these are all really good things that are really important as a young person to learn.
Representative Liston.
Thank you. Well, those are all good things. Do they teach you the value of thrift and savings?
Representative Coleman.
Absolutely. You know, I got this suit at the ARC thrift store. I did not, but I have shopped there many times before, and I think it's important that we continue to teach our children about all places to get clothing and save money, and that's what this does.
Am I sensing an economic report here, Representative Liston, or no?
No, Mr. Chairman, no. That would be a good segue, but no. I think this is a great idea, and I commend Representative Coleman and Representative Neville for this because you're never too young to learn the values of thrift and savings and planning for the future. So I think this is a good bill. I would urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on this tier-remoting bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1305. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 1305 passes. Now, Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 26.
Senate Bill 26 by Senator Kagan, also Representative Harrod Willett, concerning measures to make sex offender registration more effective.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Thanks. Senate Bill 26 is a pretty straightforward bill. It came to us from law enforcement and helps to update and modernize some of our sex offender registration requirements. For instance, law enforcement was having to find themselves going into nursing homes or checking registrants that are incapacitated for one reason or another. This is not the best use of their time. They asked us to move this bill forward, and I asked for an aye vote.
Representative Harrod, that was a great summation, but I need you to move the bill in the committee report.
I move Senate Bill 26.
And Judiciary.
And the Judiciary Committee report.
Okay, thank you very much. Representative Willett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Harrod. As said, good bill, vote yes. On the item of unusual sightings, Representative Harrod and I down here together twice in like 3 days.
It's a good thing.
Is there any further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Judiciary Committee report passes.
Oh, no.
To the bill, Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for an aye vote.
Okay. Oh, look, we have discussion. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's an honor to serve with you.
It's been my great honor to serve with you, my man. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 26. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
Congratulations.
Senate Bill 26 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 172.
Senate Bill 172 by Senator Gardner, also Representative Lee, concerning testing for horse racing licensees for the presence of prohibited substances.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 172.
To the bill, Representative Lee.
Thank you. Senate Bill 172 is a bill to give the State Racing Commission the authority to set up rules and regulations to provide for the testing of jockeys. By way of background, they had been doing this. The legal services folks said that they didn't have statutory authority to do it, and thus they came to the Senate to ask for statutory authority. So that's what this bill does. Gives the Racing Commission authority to write rules governing the testing of jockeys for drugs.
Thank you, I'm sorry, Representative Lee.
Go ahead.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 172? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 172. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 172 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1187 till the end of the second reading calendar.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1187 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, please read the... Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1245 one day.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1245 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. All right. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1257.
House Bill 1257 by Representative Rosenthal, all Senator Cook, concerning a correction to House Bill 16-1316 by reinserting the word not.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1257, and there is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, members, this is a very simple bill. There was a mistake done in House Bill 16-1316 a couple years ago where we accidentally removed the word not. And what that does is it changes the way that we can administer a treatment plan for children who have abuse and neglect cases when we want to transfer them from one county to another. So this would allow for that treatment plan to continue. If somebody moves from one county to the other, the treatment plan would be able to follow.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1257? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1257. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1257 passes. Madam Majority Leader. Run, Forrest, run.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of House Bill 1308.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1308.
House Bill 1308, Representatives Kraft, Tharp, and Becker J. All Senators Hill and Kagan, concerning exemption from the Workers' Compensation Act of Colorado for non-resident employers whose employees are temporarily working in Colorado.
A Kraft, Tharp, and Becker bill. Representative Kraft, Tharp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1308 and the Business Committee report.
Okay. Is there any discussion on to the committee report? Representative Kraft, Tharp. Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, the amendment that was done in Business Committee was just to make sure that we trued up the definition of what essentially what a temporary employee is, and the state has to be under 6 months in order to get the reciprocity, ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Business Affairs and Labor Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Business Affairs and Labor Committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Yes. Aye.
Opposed, no. The Business Affairs and Labor Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Kraft, Tharp.
Thank you. So Representative Becker would like to, at this time, introduce an amendment to the bill. And I think everybody has a copy. We'd like to move
L002
and have it properly displayed.
L002 has been moved and is properly before us. Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment, what this does is take away some of the similar products that may be lesser, what we would call workman's comp in other states. So this would just make sure we're comparing apples to apples when we are giving reciprocity to other states for workman's comp. This just says if it's really essentially a lesser product, we would not give reciprocity. It has to be even with what we have in the state of Colorado. Ask for an aye vote on L002.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L002? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L002. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's close. L002 passes. Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you. So we are asking for your support for House Bill 1308. And basically what this does is it establishes reciprocity with other states that we would contract with for workers' comp. This is important because there are workers that work is not defined by state line. And there are people that go across the state lines to be able to do their work, such as truckers. And so we don't want to require them to have to buy workers' comp in both areas, so that's double workers' comp. So this just establishes that Colorado can be part of these reciprocity agreements. Thank you, Representative. And so we are asking for your support.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I just wanted to let you know that we heard this in Business Affairs and Labor, and just a couple points. This will save the businesses here in Colorado about $20 million a year. It gives access to greater fuel and gas for our businesses here in Colorado. This is a good bill. It passed out of committee 11-0. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you, Representative Liston.
That was it? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1308. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. House Bill 1308 passes.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 161.
Senate Bill 161 by Senator Smollett, also Representatives Kraft-Tharp and Landgraf, concerning repeal of the Behavioral Health Transformation Council.
Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you. I move Senate Bill 161.
To the bill, Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you. I'd like to talk a little slow so that my co-prime, Representative Landgraf, could join me. We're on 161. Oh, okay. So basically, this bill is repealing the Behavioral Health Transformation Council. I just would like to say that when I worked here as a lobbyist representing mental health organizations, I was part of the team of mental health organizations that came up with the idea around the Behavioral Health Transformation Council and helped pass it through the legislature. So this has some mixed feelings for me that at this point in time we would like to ask for the repeal. During the time, this council has done some amazing work in helping to bring some creativity, some comprehensive integrated work to the behavioral health care field.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this has been a great group. They've done a lot of work, but most of what they're doing has been kind of sent out to other organizations, other task forces. I would ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 161. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 161 passes.
Thank you.
Adam, majority, no? Okay. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1274.
House Bill 1274 by Representatives Becker, Kay, and Bridges, also Senator Kerr, concerning a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in Colorado in connection therewith requiring that by the year 2050, statewide greenhouse gas emissions be reduced by 80% of the levels of the greenhouse gas emissions that existed in the year 2005.
Good job, Mr. Randall. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1274. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Madam Majority Leader. Yes, Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, climate change is real. It is caused by human activity, and our state will be hit harder than many others, which means our state has an even greater obligation to do something about global climate change. This bill is a strong step in that direction, and I ask for an aye vote.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Climate change is one of the biggest crises that our generation and future generations will face. If we don't start tackling climate change head on, we'll continue to see more frequent wildfires, more severe problems with insects, pests, and disease. We'll see snowpack decline, plant and animal ranges shifting, water shortages, and other natural disasters. If we don't take the lead on reducing our carbon emissions, we jeopardize our economy, our health, and our livelihoods. It's time to take action. Taking action on climate change will lead to economic benefits of carbon reduction. It's important that we hit 80% levels below 2005 on our own as a state, because the federal administration is pulled out of the Paris agreements, so we need to take it on ourselves to follow through on the commitments we've made. I ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1274.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I encourage a no vote. Once again, this is another bill that's going to make Colorado less affordable. When affordability is the top issue in Colorado right now, this is one of those bills that's going to drive up costs for just about every product you can possibly name. And therefore, I urge a no vote.
Representative Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge a no vote on this bill. And I'll tell you, there's climate change happening, but it's a natural occurrence. There's nothing here that they're telling us, yes, it will make it higher. Everything in Colorado and the nation will be more expensive. We've already spent big money on a lot of this. You better look up environmental weather modification and see what our country is doing with your weather, and then you might find out something. I urge you to vote no.
Representative Jay Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we heard this in committee, and we see bills like this similar every year. I think it's important that we keep an all-of-the-above strategy of using all these sources of energy to work together to come up with an affordable energy mix in the state of Colorado. That's what we're doing right now. That's what's working. As you see, we are still driving up costs. We don't know whether this is coming from these so-called renewable energies that we're dealing with or not. We need to look at this mix, make sure we have it correct, make sure we're doing what's right for the state of Colorado in keeping energy affordable, and that is with a proper mix of all of the above, which we have said in the state of Colorado and we have designated to our energy office. I would ask for a no vote.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Preserving the environment is in fact good for the economy in Colorado. If we don't address climate change, the real costs to people across Colorado from wildfires, insects, a shortened snowpack, less water are extreme and severe. This isn't a cost to the state of Colorado. It's a benefit to the environment and a benefit to people who rely on our current climate for their daily lives, for their businesses, for everything we do in Colorado. So I strongly disagree that this is actually an negative economic impact to Colorado.
Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we have less water in the state, that costs jobs. That costs jobs in rural Colorado, that costs jobs here in the Denver metro area. When we have fires in this state, which we will increasingly have as climate change continues to progress, that doesn't just cost jobs, that doesn't just cost our economy, that costs lives. This bill is a necessary step, and I urge an aye vote.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make one other point about the economy and the economic benefits of carbon reduction. In 2015, clean tech was the fastest growing industry on the Front Range and has grown 6% in the past year. The cost of renewable energy technology is steadily decreasing, and renewables are becoming more accessible and showing cost of living decreases. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to say that I know you've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. A few years ago, Fort Collins passed the toughest climate action plan in the United States in a bipartisan vote on City Council 7-0. And from then on, we have been booming, booming, booming. We can't keep people out. Our businesses are clean, and they're running. They provide jobs that young families want to come to. They appreciate the environment, and it's good for business. Clean energy does not kill jobs. Clean energy promotes clean and healthy lifestyles and good jobs for Colorado. And I urge a strong aye vote on this. Thank you.
Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd agree that this is a growing industry. I would agree that it could be good for Colorado. But mandating it out is not good for Colorado. Let the market decide which one of these energies is right for what we're doing. Make sure they can look at affordability for everything, not lock them into one place. That's what this is doing, saying, hey, we have to have this done by a certain year. Let's let the market decide. That's exactly what we should be doing in all of the above energy portfolio, not locking us into one thing, to make sure we are doing the right thing for the citizens of Colorado. I'd ask for a no vote.
Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm afraid that some of my colleagues on the other side have mistaken this bill for a renewable energy portfolio requirement, which this bill is not. So comments to the bill would be about reducing greenhouse gases, which come from a wide variety of sources. It is not a requirement that Colorado do anything in particular to its particular energy mix. That would be a different bill. Thank you.
How's it going? Sorry, Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm curious about the fiscal note on this bill, being one of your ever-lovable budget guys, which says the bill will increase workload and expenditures for state agencies beginning in 18-19. Why is there no estimate of the actual cost? I mean, these sorts of regulations require something, people going out and inspecting something, measuring. We have a lot of activity going on already to measure and analyze, but I just don't see how we can vote for a bill this sweeping with these kind of requirements without knowing what it's going to cost.
Representative Rosenthal, I saw his hand up. I haven't seen you raise your hand, Representative Racer. Okay. Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in strong support of this bill, House Bill 1274. And as I look at it, it's sort of an overarching bill that also encompasses what cities like Denver are doing. City of Denver has a 2050 goal of 80% below 2005 levels. And it's not just goals, it's actually an action plan to see how we also look at energy use in buildings, residential energy use, land use and transportation, and things like that. So in other words, cities are starting to prepare for that kind of future, and this would provide an overarching model to go under. So I rise in strong support, and I hope my colleagues do as well. Thank you.
Representative Rare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in strong opposition to this. Every time the clean energy, quote unquote, comes forward, common sense leaves the room. And all the talk I'm hearing is about how everybody's lives along the Front Range is going to be improved with this. I have another news flash that some people keep forgetting is Colorado is not I-25. Colorado, these clean energy mandates are affecting us in the rural areas. It's affecting our costs of farming with the electrical bills on our pumps and the water. It is affecting how we handle things. And yes, we have to drive big vehicles. And yes, there is a carbon emission. But that isn't what's causing it. And nobody seems to want to talk about the scientific studies that show that this clean energy fiasco is just that. But nobody wants to talk about that, and they keep handing down these mandates. I absolutely urge a no vote.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that there is strong scientific consensus around greenhouse gases contributing and carbon pollution contributing to higher temperatures throughout the world. I also want to address Representative Rankin's question about the fiscal note. There would be robust state participation in rulemaking down the line to determine how to reach these goals, but this bill doesn't mandate particular programs. I would expect that our energy, transportation, building sectors would all be affected, but there would be lots of participation in a rulemaking process to determine any impacts, financial impacts to the state. I think that this is one of the most urgent crises that we face, and I strongly urge an aye vote.
Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As far as scientific studies go and scientific consensus goes, there are few things in this world that have greater scientific consensus than the fact that climate change is happening and it is caused by human activity. That is science. We can debate whether or not we want to do something about it, but the science on this is overwhelming and it's very clear. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1274? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1274. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those no. No. House Bill 1274 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 126.
Senate Bill 126 by Senators Grantham and Guzman, also Representatives Pabon and Van Winkle, concerning the definition of a traditional large and premium cigar for purposes of the excise tax on tobacco products.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move Senate Bill 126. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this is a bill that updates the OTP statute to add a true definition of traditional large and premium cigars. This bill does not change tax policy. That's why the fiscal note is 0. And by the way, Amendment 35 of our state constitution prohibits us from changing the current tax rate. We update definitions of all types of things from time to time. These products are different from other items in the OTP definition, but we are keeping the taxes the same. And since we are keeping the definition in the current OTP statute, these products will continue to be taxed at this current rate. There will be no change. Ask for an aye vote.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have very little to add to that. It's a terrific explanation of what the bill does. It simply adds a definition to statute, doesn't change taxes at all.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 126? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 126. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 126 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1268.
House Bill 1268, Representative Ruggiero, Senator Gardner, concerning the procedures to recall a director of a special district.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1268 and the State Affairs Committee report.
To the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a fantastic visit with the State Affairs Committee to discuss this bill, and we made a couple amendments that were requested by the county clerks. I'd ask for an aye vote on the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? The question before us is the passage of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm glad that you're there. All those opposed say no. The State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move L003 to House Bill 1268 and ask it be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us and displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As part of our fantastic discussion with the State Affairs Committee, Representative Benavidez asked why all of the notices that were provided had to only go by mail and cannot be transmitted electronically. And I said there's no reason it shouldn't be that way. So let's go ahead and amend the bill to do that. So I'd ask for an aye vote on L003.
Welcome to the 21st century. Is there any further discussion on L003? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L003. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. L003 passes. To the bill, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill modernizes the recall procedure for special district elections. Basically, a few years ago, we just instructed special districts to use the municipal election code for recalls. There are actually several significant logistical hurdles as part of doing that. And so we're not changing the substantive law of recalls. There are no pending recalls we're looking to address. This is basically a good government bill that allows districts to use a modernized election procedure. If and when the citizens of a district decide to seek a recall, I would ask for a yes vote.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, members, I have some experience with a recall election in a special district, so I want to commend Representative Gray for bringing this on, because when this recall was going on, the rules governing a recall in a special district were very nebulous and uncertain. So I'm sure this is a vast improvement. Not that there'll be that many recalls necessarily in special districts boards, but there needed to be better ground rules. So I definitely give him the benefit of the doubt, and I vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1268? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1268. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Wow, let's see here. House Bill 1268 passes. Mr. Randall, please read us the title of House Bill 1007. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1007 till April 9th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1007 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, please read us the title of House Bill 1265.
House Bill 1265, Representatives Lantini, Beckman, Nelson, and Crowder, concerning the continuation of the Stroke Advisory Board in accordance with the recommendation of the Department of Regulatory Agencies 2017 Sunset Report.
Representative Lantini. Representative Beckman, you can come on up. Who wants to move the bill? Representative Lantini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1265. There was no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Lantini. Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill adopts the recommendation of the Stroke Advisory Board. A minimum amount of workload will happen. The Stroke Advisory Board is an 18-member board, governor appointed, and the recommendation from the Department of Public Health was that we continue this board. It is a board that is filled with a lot of professionals from across the state of Colorado, doctors and people who work in this, administrators from hospitals and people who have experts in strokes. 18-member board. They are term limited. That was a concern that we had on many of these sunset revision bills that came in front of health, is that they didn't have a term limit, and all of these board members do have a term limit. So I would ask for your support in the continuation of the Stroke Advisory Board.
Thank you. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L002 and ask that it be displayed. And it is displayed.
The amendment is properly before us and displayed. Please proceed, Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very simple amendment. It just sets the repeal to September 1, 2028, so a 10-year sunset as opposed to no date, which is there now.
Representative Lantini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The sponsors consider this to be a friendly amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L002? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L002. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The amendment passes. To the bill, Representative Lantini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1265 as amended.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1265. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1265 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 136.
Senate Bill 136 by Senator Neville, also Representatives Kraft, Tharp, and Sias, concerning fees for advising clients about the selection of individual health benefit plan.
Representative Kraft Tharp. Go. Yes, Representative Kraft Tharp. I did a slow motion so Representative Sias could get to the well.
Yes, that is correct. So I move Senate Bill 136. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Kraft Tharp. Representative Sias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, which came out of the Business Committee by a vote of 12-0, would simply align current practice within the health insurance industry with the statutory framework and allow brokers who are providing advice to folks who are shopping on the healthcare exchange to charge a fee for their service if it is disclosed up front to replace the former way it used to be done, which was via a compensation from the insurer.
Representative Kraft-Fart.
And I know that you meant the Finance Committee.
Sorry.
Right, but they also supported it. So we've worked pretty closely with most of the consumer groups because this does not include, there is no availability to charge fees around Medicaid, Medicare, exchange programs. So we've clarified that in this bill with amendments prior to getting here. So we ask for your support.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We spent a while discussing this, going over what the sponsors had done on this bill. It's actually a really good bill. I voted yes in committee and will do so again on third reading because they did a lot of stakeholder work, and the whole fee structure with brokers is very complicated, but I have to commend the sponsors for really doing their homework to get everybody together on one page. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually just came up to let Representative Sias know that he was in Health Insurance and Environment, but it was a very busy day, and it did pass 12-0, and it is a good bill, and I would ask for a yes vote.
Great. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 136? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 136. All those in favor say aye. How about the bill sponsor? Say aye.
Aye.
Jeez. All those opposed, no? Ah, my. Senate Bill 136 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 149.
Senate Bill 149 by Senator Gardner, House Representatives Gray and Herod, concerning records of the Board of Directors of the Denver Health and Hospital Authority.
Oh, she's coming. She's coming.
I'll wait for your co-prime. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move Senate Bill 149 and the HIE committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In HIE, we added an amendment that clarifies in this bill that employee salary information from Denver Health, as we'll be talking about in a moment, is still subject to public disclosure. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report? Representative Herod.
Oh, no, to the bill, sorry.
Okay. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The Health Insurance and Environment Committee report passes. I'm going to go with Melton one of these days. You're going to all be shocked. To the bill. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is designed to help Denver Health. It basically clarifies that individual medical records and the data that comes from individual medical records of patients isn't going to be disclosed in a public records request and generally will help protect patient privacy. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is important to ensure patient privacy. As we know, privacy has been a huge issue that's been in the media and in our everyday lives, and this bill will help to ensure that patients' important records are kept private. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 149? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 149. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 149 passes. Congratulations. Mr. Randall, please read the title of HCR 1001.
House Concurrent Resolution 1001 by Representatives Lee and West, Senators Cord and Gardner, submitting to the registered electors of the state of Colorado an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning a change in the format of the election ballot for judicial retention elections.
Okay, Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move HCR 18-1001.
To the bill, or to the concurrent resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we all love the language on ballots for judicial retention. It seems to go on and on and on. This is a common sense reform where we will substantially shorten the ballot. The question about retaining the judges will remain the same as in the past. But then we'll have a list of the judges with a yes, no. The bottom line for our counties is this will substantially shorten the ballot and save them money. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Representative Lee.
Thank you. And in the interest of brevity, I'll just affirm the statements of my co-sponsor. This saves time, money, and is government efficiency. We ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on HCR 18-1001? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of HCR 18-1001. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. HCR 18-1001 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 179 till April 5th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, Senate Bill 179 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1260 till Tuesday, April 3rd.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1260 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 184.
Senate Bill 184 by Senators Quorum, House Representatives McKean and Escar, concerning a new permit for the short-term extraction of construction materials.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 184 and the Agriculture, Livestock, Natural Resources Committee report.
To the committee report, Representative Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a clarifying amendment to make sure that we had all of our ducks in a row. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Agricultural, Livestock, and Natural Resources Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The Agriculture, Livestock, and Natural Resource Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 184 and recommend an aye vote.
Okay, it's been moved, but all right, that's cool. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 184. No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 184 passes. I think we're missing a couple of co-sponsors. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1209 till the end of the second reading calendar.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1209 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Randall. Okay. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1277.
House Bill 1277 by Representatives Baker, Jane Escar, all Senators Baumgartner and Capellas, concerning a requirement that an applicant for the Building Excellence Goals Today Act to grant financial assistance for public school capital construction include a plan for the use or disposition of any existing public school facility that the applicant will stop using for its current use if it freezes grant.
Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1277.
To the bill, Representative Becker.
Thank you. Members, this is actually a very simple bill. It goes into the BEST program and says if you are applying for money for a new school, that you have to address the old buildings. You have to say whether or not you're going to lease them out, tear them down, or whether somebody's getting ready to buy them. I'll tell you that we have the Brush school districts sitting on the side of the chamber that actually did this without us asking them to do it. So the Brush School District, one of the greatest school districts inside of the state of Colorado, because they have a great kindergarten teacher in that school district that keeps me in line every day. But they already did this without us asking, and after we went and asked the school districts whether or not this would be a good or bad thing, they said that this would be fine. I would ask for an aye vote.
Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I would add is that this was a Capital Development Committee bill, which means it was vetted through the committee, passed unanimously out of our committee to go on as a Capital Development Committee bill, and it passed through the Education Committee in a bipartisan manner. I encourage an aye vote.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1277. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. House Bill 1277 passes. Wow, this is the Representative Kraft-Tharp show. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 11.
Senate Bill 11 by Senators Holbrook and Curtis, Representatives Kraft, Tharp, and Lundin concerning treatment for students who are excused by their parents from participating in state assessments.
What's he doing? What's he doing?
Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you. I move Senate Bill 11. There is no committee report.
To the bill. Representative Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is a bill that identifies the fact that we don't want to shame students who, in fact, have, for some reason or another, chosen to opt out of the assessments, the state policy governing assessments, that they may not find quite as useful for their educational purposes. But the point is, we don't want to shame those students who, in fact, choose to opt out.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 11? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 11 passes. We next have up Representative, sorry for demoting you, Mr. Randall. Please read the title of Senate Bill 183.
Senate Bill 183 by Senator Tate, House Representative Martin, listing concerning authorizing agents of insurers who access the electronic system that ensures access for owner and lien holder information of motor vehicle.
I'll be on the left.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 183. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Arndt.
Thank you very much. This is a simple bill, but it's going to help a lot of people. It's the cleanup legislation from 2017 that allowed insurers to access to a division of motor vehicles database for the purpose of claim settlement. And this legislation simply adds in the agent of an insurer to also access that database.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, Senate Bill 183 allows an agent of an insurer access to the Division of Motor Vehicles database for the purpose of settling a claim. This simple change will make it easier for an insurer to settle total loss claims for their policyholders. I urge an aye vote. This passed out of committee unanimously, 10-0. I ask for an aye vote on Senate Bill 183. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 183? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 183. All those in favor say aye.
Get us?
How about the bill sponsors? Aye.
Can you send it to me?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right. Senate Bill 183 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see a bill up by Representative Sias. I do not see Representative Sias.
Paging Representative Sias.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Representative Sias. Paging Representative Sias. There you are. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 174.
Senate Bill 174 by Senator Gardner, House Representative Sias, concerning liability of entities that provide services to persons with developmental disabilities in residential settings.
Representative Sias.
Mr. Chair, I move Senate Bill 174 and the committee report from the Public Health and Human Services Committee.
To the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report.
Mr. Chair, the committee report made a small amendment to substitute the word move for remove in order to avoid confusion with other statutory language and the word removal.
Is there any further discussion on the Public Health Care and Human Services report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report. Those in favor say aye. How about from the bill sponsor? Aye. Okay. All those opposed? No. I'm not certainly going to pass this one. The Public Health Care and Human Services report passes. To the bill, Representative Sias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this bill does is, in legislation passed in 2013, the administration of long-term services for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities was changed from a Department of Human Services to Healthcare Policy and Finance. And what this bill does is update statutes related to that administration of those programs by HCPF using rules established by HCPF after this transfer. It also eliminates ambiguities between federal statutes and state statutes regarding the rights of individuals in the IDD community, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 174. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 174 passes.
Thank you.
Madam Majority Leader.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the request of the bill sponsor, I move to lay over House Bill 1248 till May 10th.
There any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1248 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1187 till Wednesday, April 4th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill, which one was it?
Did you get my text?
1187 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1209 one day.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1209 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader.
Bring this to the end of the calendar.
We're done.
So I'll just rise and report.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for chairing a long calendar today, and I move that we rise and report.
The committee will rise and report. Boom! Watch us dance.
The House will come to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee whole big state report has its tradition following touch bills being the second reading. They were mixed smaller recommendations on House Bill 1257, House Bill 1264, House Bill 1265 is amended, House Bill 1268 is amended, House Bill 1224, House Bill 1227, House Bill 1305, House Bill 1308 is amended, House Concurrent Resolution 1001 passed on third reading or gross placed counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 11, Senate Bill 26 is amended, Senate Bill 106, Senate Bill 110, Senate Bill 126, Senate Bill 127, Senate Bill 129, Senate Bill 136, Senate Bill 149 is amended, Senate Bill 161, Senate Bill 172, Senate Bill 174 is amended, Senate Bill 183, Senate Bill 184 is amended. Passed third reading or revised, placed counter for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1209, House Bill 1245, House Bill 1260 laid over until April 3rd, 2018, retaining the place in the calendar. House Bill 1187 laid over until April 4th, 2018, retaining its place in the calendar. Senate Bill 179 laid over until April 5th, 2018, retaining its place in the calendar. House Bill 1007 laid over until April 9th, 2018, retaining its place in the calendar. House Bill 1248 laid over until May 10th, 2018.
Representative Salazar. All right, members, you have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Benavides, Representative Buck, Representative McKean, and Representative Thurlow. Please vote. Representative McKean.
Madam Speaker, we're not going to do Senate amendments. We're just doing tomorrow.
Representative McKean. Good afternoon, Representative McKean. You should have heard your members, your team, the request of the fine. Please close the machine. With 60 yes votes, 4 no votes, and 1 excuse, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Representative McKean, despite requests from some of your fellow colleagues for $20 or $30 for fine, no, that's what they requested. The fee will be $2. Announcements and introductions. Announcements and introductions. Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today in House Ag in Room 107, we will hear House Bill 1301 available for remote testimony, 1295, Senate Bill 187, and Senate Bill 188. See you there, 107.
All right, further announcements or introductions? Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For Judiciary Committee, House Bill 171 will not be heard tomorrow afternoon. 171 by Representatives Pabon and Sias is off the calendar for tomorrow. Thank you.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we had a busy week last week, and so I really didn't have a chance to bring some good economic news, but there really was some good economic news last week. The Commerce Department reported that the fourth quarter GDP was revised upwards from 2.5% to 2.9%. This was the third consecutive quarter of above average growth and the best growth that the economy has had since the George Bush years of 2004, 2005. So it's great economic news. Aren't we glad that we live in America where we have a great economy? So let's hear a good shout out for the good economic news. Thank you.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would like to follow up Representative Liston's good financial news across the nation with some good financial news because of the tax cuts in Colorado. ABC Supply Company, it's the larger wholesale distributor for roofing equipment, siding, windows, and gutters, is a privately owned corporation with over 700 branches in the United States. But in Colorado, 3 of those Colorado branches were in the top overall performers. The branch managers are all going to get bonuses, but what's really important is that every employee, it doesn't matter if they're a janitor or a maintenance or working in the roofing equipment or siding sales, they're going to get a bonus of $5,000 to $30,000 each. That is tremendous. This is because of the tax cuts. ABC Supply Company believes in the American dream, and they are empowering their employers to achieve those dreams. They will get their checks in the mail on Friday, March 16th. Good financial news for those workers in Colorado.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. He who giveth taketh away. Unfortunately, what we're also seeing is because the current administration has engaged in beginning of a trade war with China, one of our biggest trade partners, and so the American worker is now going to pay more for Chinese items, and then the Chinese are going to buy less of ours, particularly pork, aluminum, wine, fruit, nuts, herbs, pipes, and things like that that are now going to be more expensive. And that's what we don't need, members, is a trade war making things more expensive for the American worker, which could drive us into a recession. Thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Assistant Majority Leader Garnett. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to remind you all that you need to submit a request in writing to Legislative Council if you want to request an interim committee, and that has to be done by April 13th. So the deadline is coming up, and no exceptions to that deadline can be granted. You can email Elizabeth Berger if you have more questions, and there's an email this morning in your inbox from her explaining the process. So once again, the deadline is April 13th for submitting letters to Legislative Council to request an interim committee.
Further announcements and introductions. Representative Weissman.
Thank you, and members, it's just been called to my attention that today the S&P is down 2.4%, the Dow is down 2.2%, the NASDAQ is down 2.8%, and the Russell 2000 index is down 2.1%. Trade wars are not good for the country.
Further announcements or introductions? Dare I ask? Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House now stand in recess until 1 o'clock today.
All right. Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess. Aye.